Hey, what's up everybody? This is your boy Kenny, and this is a special video that I'm doing. Today I want to do a video to celebrate the life of the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. Now, for those of you who know me, I'm a singer, and she's definitely one of my biggest inspirations. You know, she was definitely a singer I heard from the moment growing up, and she was way before my time. But it's funny because even though she was before my time, she was just as relevant in my generation as she was then. And her music has transcended so many. You know, her voice has been called the national treasure, you know, because she sung for so many different presidents and so many different leaders of power. You know, she has crossed, you know, so many, you know, genres throughout her career, from R&B to pop to jazz, you know, to rock, even opera, you know. So definitely this morning we lost, you know, one of the greatest, and she's definitely somebody that I will remember, you know, for, you know, her great vocal ability, but also how she has paved the way for so many that follow behind her. For example, Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey, Celine Dion, you know, so many that she has paved the way for. Beyonce, you know, you can just name them off the top of your head. You know, how many artists have been influenced by Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul, you know. And it just goes to show that, you know, when you have a God-gifted talent and you really flourish it, because I don't even think she knew how big she was going to be, but she stayed true to who she was and decided to chase her dream. She knew she was a great singer. I mean, she grew up in Detroit. You know, her father, you know, the late Reverend C.L. Franklin, was a very renowned Baptist preacher and minister. You know, he was very good friends with Martin Luther King and knew a whole lot of artists like the Reverend James Cleveland, the Cavaliers, Clara Ward. I mean, so many, you know, great gospel legends literally walked in her living room. So here it is, Aretha was surrounded by greatness at an early age. You know, she was around, you know, Shirley Caesar and Aretha, Mahalia Jackson and the likes of her. You know, these great, powerful artists who were very close friends with her father. So there was always, you know, people coming through. Sam Cooke, another one. You know, she was always surrounded by these great artists that they literally took her under their wing. And it's kind of funny because you can say the same thing. She was kind of the same thing for Whitney Houston when Whitney Houston was a little girl, because Sissy Houston used to sing backup for Aretha Franklin, and Whitney, being a little girl, you know, was surrounded by Aretha Franklin. So she saw, you know, greatness. Just like Clara Ward was that for Aretha Franklin, she was that for Whitney at an early age. She became that that pedestal or that image or that idol that they wanted to achieve. And you know, she was also close to Dinah Washington. So many great artists that surrounded Aretha at an early age, and there's no coincidence that she became such a great artist, because she was surrounded by greatness. And if you're around greatness, you can't help but be great yourself. And you know, you can think about all of the countless songs that she's done over the years. You know, because when she first started her career, she was kind of doing like these jazz songs on Columbia Records. But once she got on to what's the name of that record company? it's at the top of my head. But once she changed record companies, you know, under Jerry Wexler, because also who else? Because Ray Charles was on the same label. If y'all remember the name of that label, put it down in the comments. It's at the top of my head. But once she changed to that label, that's when she really started to hone her true talent as being a soulful singer. Because, you know, at the time when she was doing these jazz numbers, they were trying to soften her voice because she had such a big sound. And they were trying to, you know, get it small that she could sing these jazz numbers, because at the time, you know, the jazz sound was big. And it wasn't until that she got that she changed labels, and she went to Muscle Shoals, you know, the infamous Muscle Shoals, where she recorded the tracks Natural, I think it was I think the track that she recorded there was Never Loved a Man, and also I think Natural Woman she did there too. I could be wrong, but if I am, correct me. But when she went to Muscle Shoals, that's when the soulful Aretha Franklin that we have come to know was born. You know that, and from that point on, her sound as well as her presence completely changed. And when she did the timeless track Respect, that definitely put her on a map like no other, because Respect was originally done by Otis Redding, but when she took it, and during the times of the 60s where there was a lot of racial discrimination, male chauvinism, you had all of these issues that were just raging in the United States, and for her to have a song Respect not only spoke to the black community, but it also spoke to woman, and it also spoke to womanhood and feminism. So she became a voice, you know, for many generations following that. I mean, she was like the voice of the 60s. There wasn't a place you could turn around and you didn't see her, because after she was defined as the Queen of Soul, everything she touched turned to gold. She just had the Midas touch, and her voice just had the Midas touch when it came to music. And even though in the 70s her career kind of waned a little bit because of the rise of the disco era, but she was still relevant. And even like from the 80s, she had a resurgence. You know, she was doing duets with George Michael, and, you know, was on, you know, the Jumpin' Jack Flash soundtrack, and was, you know, doing duets with Annie Lennox. And so she, you know, she began becoming an idol for my generation, because I'm an 80s baby. So, you know, I remember her doing Freeway of Love and Knew You Were Waiting for Me, and Sisters Are Doing It For Themselves. I mean, these songs are definitely entrenched in my childhood, and and like Aretha was just as big as some of the other ones, you know. Aretha was just as big as some of the other artists of that time, like Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson. She held her own and was still winning awards, and she's won, I think, 18 Grammys, you know. Very renowned career, you know, successful, and definitely even in the 90s, where she did A Rose Is Still a Rose, you know, which the song was actually written by, you know, somebody that idolized her as well, Lauryn Hill. And Lauryn Hill also directed the video. So here it is, even in the 90s, she still was relevant. You know, even in the 2000s, she was relevant. I mean, one of my favorite moments of, Aretha Franklin was when Luciano Pavarotti fell sick during a year at the Grammys, and every year he will perform this song Nessun Dorma from the opera Turandot by Puccini. He would do this song every year. It's a song I also learned as well, so I know it too. I might actually do a video singing it too. So yeah, it's a very beautiful song, and it really calls for a big voice to sing it. But that year, Pavarotti was having some throat issues and couldn't make it to the Grammys. So he asked his good friend Aretha Franklin to do it, and this was like 2 hours before the show. And she delivered a performance that to this day is unforgettable. You know, she literally went out there, sung that song, but yet put her own spin on it. And it was just beautiful, you know, and she got a lot of rave reviews for that performance. And that's a Grammy moment that will never be forgotten, you know, because I remember watching it at the time that it came on, and I was just blown away. And I was just, wow. And then later on, she had presented a Best New Artist Grammy to Paula Cole that year. So yeah, I remember it. And you know, we also have those moments where she was also very shady too, like when she did the Divas Live concert and she told them no air conditioning because she didn't like air conditioning to be on while she was singing because it would mess up her voice. And when they actually kept the air conditioning on after she told them to turn it off, Miss Thing stopped the rehearsal, went to her trailer, and wasn't going to perform. But the crew got together, they apologized to her, presented her with some roses, and she came and she delivered one of the best VH1 Divas Live concerts ever. I mean, I remember that concert. I mean, the rest of the girls couldn't keep up with her. I mean, you had Mariah Carey, Shania Twain, Celine Dion, you know, women that she influenced, you know, Carole King. You had so many of these big names on stage with her, and Aretha stole the show. You know, she shut it down. And you literally see all these other divas kind of looking, you know, oh, Jesus, you know, was kind of like trying to keep up with her, but they couldn't because Aretha was a dynamite vocalist that could not be topped by anybody. I mean, I just want to say that, you know, I'm honored to have been influenced by her. I'm honored to have known such a great voice. I mean, just this past weekend, I was at my family reunion in Williamsburg, Virginia, and on the way home, there's this clip on YouTube that she did, I think, on I think it was called the Cliff Roberts Show, and I think it was 1970, and this is when, in the 70s, she was doing her, you know, her African daishiki, you know, realness. I mean, when she was like, you know, wearing an afro, and she had did a performance of Say a Little Prayer, and I have to say it's probably one of the best performances I've ever seen from her, you know, in my opinion. And I remember always watching this performance and just loving how big her voice was, because, you know, Say a Little Prayer was, you know, written by Burt Bacharach, and it was originally done by Dionne Warwick, but Aretha made it her own. And in all honesty, I love Dionne Warwick, but I'm a fan of Aretha doing that song. And that's just me. It's one of my favorite songs from her. So when I watched her do this song, and I knew at the time she was ill, but I didn't know how ill until this week. We kept getting reports that she was on her deathbed, and that, you know, to send prayers up to her and her family. But yeah, I was listening to it, you know, over the weekend on the way home, and I was just blown away. Every time I hear it, like the part when she really starts doing the riffs, I will sometimes rewind it over and over again because I just wanted to hear it again, because I just loved how clean and how beautiful her voice was, and I just wanted to hear that over and over again. You know, that's the kind of artist Aretha was, that you wanted to double back to figure out how the hell did she do that, you know. And I think she influenced so many, and even for us who never made it mainstream or never were big artists, you know, she's definitely an artist that definitely set a torch for us to chase, and she will be greatly missed. And I will definitely, as an artist myself, will try to keep her memory alive. And Also, that, you know, it's kind of like really sad for me because, you know, and I was actually talking to my cousin earlier, and I was saying that I hope I don't get emotional during this special video, because for those who know me, I recently lost my grandmother back in April. And here it is, a few months later, we're losing the Queen of Soul, one of the greatest singers of all time. You know, so it's like, and my grandmother's death is still very fresh with me, because my grandmother was my everything. And, you know, she was somebody that raised me along with my mother. So losing my grandmother was like losing a grandparent as well as a parent at the same time. So it was a double whammy for me losing my grandmother. And definitely, she was also a fan of Aretha Franklin as well. And, you know, she was definitely somebody that I would talk to about artists and things like that growing up, because I've always wanted to be successful, and I wanted to be a singer more than anything, because I grew up singing. So it's very, you know, bittersweet, you know, the fact that here it is, I lost my grandmother, and I've also lost the Queen of Soul. But, you know, they live on forever. I mean, my grandmother's going to live on forever with me, and also the Queen of Soul is going to live forever with all of us, because there will only be one Aretha Franklin, and there will never be another one. So I just want to thank Aretha, wherever you are, honey. You know, thank you for blessing us with your God-given gift, and that you will be a pinnacle as well as an inspiration for many to come, you know, henceforth. So that's what I have, everybody. Subscribe to my channel. Click that bell so you can get notifications every time I drop a video. Also, follow me on all of my social platforms. I have them all listed in the description box. Also, like this video, comment on this video, and share this video. And I'd like to thank all of you for tuning into this video. So until next time, everybody, take care.